the polls that we've been looking at, whether you refer to the polls that I just mentioned or other polls, it does seem like we're neck and neck between the two main parties now. Some even saying that the opposition party, New Democracy, is a little bit ahead of Syriza.
Yes, it looks that it's extremely close to call, and of course we have a big proportion of people who are undecided, and they're not only undecided on which party they will vote for, but also undecided whether they will bother to go to the booth and actually vote for a party. So a lot can change in the next couple of days and at the final moments of the decision. But I think in a way it doesn't really matter, because both parties have committed into implementing or trying to implement some of the reforms that they have been agreed.
Why is Tsipras and Syriza still so popular, given the massive U-turn that he had to make?
I think there is a narrative that Tsipras successfully communicated to the Greek public that even if they had to sign the third bailout agreement and the memorandum that went with it, at least they really took to a real fight, and they tried everything they could. So in a way, Syriza now represents the pride of the Greeks, the lost pride over the last 5 years that they had to endure all these pressures from the Europeans for continuous reforms.
You just said it would not necessarily matter if, whoever wins, because both have actually signed up to the implementation of the agreement. But if you think back, then obviously there was a lot of question marks on exactly the implementation point, because people were worrying that even if they'd agreed, there's so much infighting that they would never be able to implement, even if they agreed to it. Do you have a view on whether there is a better outcome, just looking at the implementation bit of the equation, if you look at the two parties in question?
I think it's difficult to criticize, or it is easy perhaps to criticize everybody, but I think both parties have shown that they can easily get into populism, and they're not fully committed to implementing structural reforms, and they do not also necessarily have all the expertise and the capacity to implement the best austerity measures, the least costly, most effective austerity measures. I think what we're going to see, either with one of them or with both in the coalition government, will be half-hearted implementation, but I think significantly better than we saw in the last year, including the previous New Democracy government.
What do you think voter turnout is going to be like?
I've been very wrong in the past about voter turnout, so I will not give you a number, but it's going to be lower than in the previous election.
Why?
Because I think there's a lot of apathy now in the Greek public. They've lost faith on all parties that they can do something which will turn the situation around in the favour without implementing harsh austerity. So in a way there's nothing to choose, so why bother go to the elections?